Our summary begins with the year 2001, a turning point in Megan Leavey's life, though she hadn't realized it yet. Her world was quietly falling apart. She had lost her job, her parents were divorced, and she was left to live in a home where her mother barely acknowledged her presence. The grief of losing her best friend had already carved a hollow inside her, and each passing day blurred into another, filled with disappointment and emotional fatigue. The thought weighed heavily on her. If she didn't escape now, she would fade away within the life shaped by her own suffering. With no plan, no packed bags, and without saying goodbye, Megan left. Halfway through her journey, her mother called, confused and urgent, after FF ending a U.S. Marine Corps pamphlet in Megan's room. That was how Jackie pieced together the reason behind her daughter's sudden departure. Enlisting in the Marines was far from a typical decision, especially for a young woman. But Megan wasn't seeking permission or approval. She was searching for meaning. From the moment she arrived at boot camp, reality struck hard. The training went far beyond discipline. It broke down everything she thought she was, demanding that she rebuild herself into someone stronger. Her past life, full of recklessness and comfort, had left her unprepared for the brutal drills, the physical exhaustion, and the mental strain. But still, day after day, she pushed forward. Eventually, Megan accomplished what she once believed was impossible. She became a Marine. Her graduation ceremony, which should have been a moment of pride, passed without her mother's presence. Jackie showed up days later, bringing a man named Jim to meet Megan at a restaurant. What could have been a celebratory reunion quickly turned sour as Jackie redirected the conversation toward the cracks in their family rather than acknowledging Megan's achievement. The revelation landed like a dull, expected blow. Jackie confessed that she had been having an affair with her husband's best friend, but the worst part came shortly after. Jackie finally admitted the real reason for her visit. She hadn't come to support her daughter. She came to inquire about the insurance payout, wanting to know how much money she would receive if Megan died on the battlefield. That moment shattered any illusion Megan had left. She stood up and walked away, leaving Jackie and her selfish motives behind. Megan's next posting took her to San Diego, where she was assigned to a patrol unit alongside Timmons and Lopez, two other female Marines who had also fought hard for their positions. The three of them spent their nights recklessly drinking, using laughter and alcohol to numb the weight of their growing responsibilities. But the consequences came swiftly. One night after leaving the pub, Timmons vomited on the pavement, and Megan, too drunk to care, urinated in public, right outside the Provost Marshal's office. They were caught immediately and brought before their commanding officers the following day. For Megan, the warning was clear. One more mistake, and she would be discharged from the Marine Corps. As punishment, she was reassigned from patrol duty to the military working dog unit, a demotion that forced her into the most degrading tasks. Under the authority of Gunny Martin, her new superior, Megan was thrown into the filthiest responsibilities, scrubbing cages, dealing with aggressive animals, and enduring constant humiliation. It was during this time, surrounded by the overwhelming stench of the kennels, that she first noticed Rex, a powerful dog with sharp eyes, raw energy, and barely restrained aggression. At first, Megan assumed her new role was limited to cleaning up after the animals, but that changed quickly. Martin gave her a far more painful assignment, serving as the training dummy for the attack dogs. Dressed in thick protective gear, she stood as the dogs were released to bite, pounce, and bring her down. Her first encounter with Rex revealed the full intensity of what she was up against. He wasn't just a dog, he was a weapon, trained for war. Rex was more than just a fierce animal. He was an unrelenting predator, designed to detect danger before it struck. Gunny Martin wasted no time revealing the true nature of the canine unit. These dogs weren't mere companions. They were the first line of defense in combat zones, trained to sniff out hidden explosives, identify traps, and secure routes in hostile environments. The realization sent a jolt through Megan's body. A mixture of fear and adrenaline surged through her veins, rekindling the same fire that had pushed her to enlist in the first place. She didn't shrink away from the danger. She craved it. This was a challenge worth facing, and she wanted to prove she was capable. Later, Megan returned to Rex's cage, determined to face her hesitation head-on. She asked Martin what it would take to become a dog handler. The answer was sobering. The role required far more than just cleaning cages or surviving training attacks. She needed to be an expert marksman, possess elite physical endurance, and score over 90% on the rigorous qualification tests. Though the week ended and she was due to return to her standard duties, Megan had already made her decision. This was her path. She began training with relentless intensity, pushing her limits in firearms practice, physical conditioning, and mental preparation. When test day came, Megan not only passed, she achieved the highest score among all candidates. Her sharpshooting skills earned her official recognition, but the reward wasn't immediate. Instead of being paired with a dog, she was given a training can, an empty shell that mimicked a real dog for practice drills. Soon after, Martin assembled the team of certified dog handlers. As Megan looked around, she realized she was the only woman among them. Standing before the group was a sergeant named Andrew, recently returned from Iraq. His presence carried the weight of real experience. The stories he shared had nothing to do with standard military protocol. They were the brutal, unfiltered truths of war. Tales of unpredictability, chaos, and survival. Though the dogs were expertly trained, nothing could fully prepare them for the chaos of live combat zones. Real explosives, ones with unfamiliar scents, could confuse them. Sandstorms could blind their senses. Fast-moving rivers could break their concentration. The battlefield tested them in ways no simulation ever could. Sergeant Andrew made one thing brutally clear. Any mistake in the field could lead to death. And if someone wasn't ready to face that truth, they had no business on the front lines. Megan absorbed every word with unwavering focus. She understood the stakes, and for the first time since enlisting, she felt truly prepared. Not just physically, but mentally. The bond between a handler and their dog wasn't about simple commands. It was built on trust, survival, and an unspoken connection formed through shared hardship. These animals were trained for the worst, but they weren't indestructible. Injuries on the battlefield were a reality. Handlers needed to be ready, not just to lead, but to protect and heal. Despite starting with nothing more than a training can, Megan threw herself into learning every aspect of canine combat care. She mastered emergency veterinary procedures, determined to be ready for the moment it would truly matter. Meanwhile, another handler, Walter, was assigned to work with Rex, the same fierce Belgian Malinois who had once bitten Megan during training. The partnership was strained from the beginning. Rex's raw power and intensity overwhelmed Walter, and their training sessions grew increasingly tense. Eventually, it ended in another vicious bite, one that shook Walter's confidence entirely. Fearing for his safety, Walter approached Martin and requested reassignment. The response was immediate and final. Martin removed Walter from the pairing and assigned Rex to Megan. Walter protested the decision, but Martin's word was final. Megan was now Rex's handler. Standing before his cage once more, she studied the fire in his eyes, the way his body tensed with instinctive aggression. She didn't expect obedience, not yet. Earning Rex's trust would demand patience, consistency, and resilience. So she sat with him. She offered food, stayed silent, waited. She didn't flinch when he ignored her. She didn't force anything. She let time and presence speak louder than commands. Slowly, Rex began to respond, inch by inch. He stepped forward, not out of submission, but recognition. Megan wasn't just another soldier. She was his partner now. Training together brought its own challenges. Megan had difficulty trusting Rex's instincts during bomb detection drills. She tried to lead, to control, hesitating at every sign that didn't match her logic. Andrew observed her struggle and stepped in. He reminded her that bomb patterns weren't always logical. While soldiers relied on tactics and experience, a dog's sense of smell surpassed human reason. Trust, he explained, had to go both ways. He couldn't teach her how to build that bond. She had to discover it herself. With time, repetition, and quiet determination, their coordination improved. Rex moved with precise focus through every drill. The bond between them grew stronger. Yet Megan knew the real test wouldn't come in a training field. It would come in the chaos of war. As deployment approached, Megan devoted time to Rex's care. She checked his paws, inspected his joints, and groomed him with methodical focus, ensuring he was combat ready. Walter, nearby cleaning cages, watched silently. The quiet ritual between Megan and Rex told him all he needed to know. He offered a wish of good luck, understanding now the depth of the partnership they had formed. The night before departure, Megan couldn't sleep. The weight of the unknown pressed against her chest. Needing comfort more than she cared to admit, she went to Rex's cage and brought him into her room. His presence grounded her. By morning, they stood on the airstrip, backpacks secured, weapons ready. Ahead of them lay a 7-month deployment in Iraq, where every day would be a battle to survive. Andrew Andrew approached Megan before she boarded. He placed a hand on her shoulder, prayed for her safety, and hoped she would return, with Rex by her side. The flight to Iraq was long and restless. The real war was only just beginning. Rex barked aggressively, his instincts stirred by the turbulence but light. Something felt wrong to him, and Megan could see the distress in his eyes. Reacting quickly, she secured his cage and lay beside it, offering him calm through her steady presence. Slowly, his breathing evened out, and he settled. Their arrival at Camp Ramadi in Al-Anbar province delivered a swift dose of reality. Gunfire cracked in the distance, cutting through the night air, a sharp reminder that war was always close. Megan slept in her quarters with Rex nearby, both of them restless. Every unfamiliar sound had Rex stirring, alert, ready. By morning, Megan was assigned to the front lines. It was her first day in active combat, and anxiety coiled tightly in her stomach. She met Morales, a seasoned handler with his K9 partner Chico. Together, their mission was to patrol assigned sectors, inspect vehicles, and identify hidden threats. Morales, sensing Megan's unease, offered her a quiet warning. Nothing in a war zone could be predicted, and nothing should ever be trusted. The day dragged under the weight of constant vigilance. Each vehicle check, each moment of stillness, came with the potential for sudden violence. The pressure was unrelenting. Determined to be ready for whatever came next, Megan began training Rex harder during any downtime back at base. She pushed him. Faster detection drills, sharper responses, knowing that their readiness could mean the difference between life and death. Then came a mission that tested them both. Megan and Rex were ordered to clear a house while Morales secured the surrounding area. The homeowner claimed he was just a carpet salesman. He spoke with ease. Too much ease. But Rex wasn't fooled. His body stiffened, his focus honed in on the walls. Megan followed his lead and uncovered a hidden weapons cache, proof that instincts often spoke louder than words. That moment became a turning point. Megan and Rex were no longer just a new team. They were a trusted unit, relied upon in the most dangerous situations. With each successful operation, but the mission that followed would test them like never before. Stationed 10 kilometers from base, Megan and Rex were tasked with clearing a road ahead of an incoming convoy. For 2 relentless hours, they scanned the terrain. Rex uncovered mine after mine, each one buried with deadly intent. Their work was grueling but essential, every detection preventing a potential tragedy. Then, as they marked another bomb location, the situation changed. An unmarked vehicle approached at high speed, ignoring all signals to stop. Warning shots were fired. Finally, the driver surrendered, stepping out with hands raised. But something felt wrong. Megan's instincts screamed a silent alarm. Then came the explosion. The blast hurled Megan and Rex through the air. They hit the ground hard. Megan felt pain ripple through her body as she landed. Beside her, Rex was motionless, his breathing shallow and ragged. The aftermath brought more than just physical pain. Command demanded answers. Why hadn't Rex detected the explosive? The truth was worse than negligence. The device had been buried deeper than standard detection range and triggered remotely. This had been a calculated strike, a direct attempt to kill them. Despite her injuries, Megan refused to be sidelined. When orders came to replace her with Morales, she refused. This wasn't just duty anymore. It was personal. Driven by resolve, Megan led one final operation. The target, a suspected enemy surveillance site. She and Rex pushed forward, clearing the building room by room. Their search led them to the remote detonator used in the earlier attack, their enemy's tool now in their hands. But the victory was short-lived. Rex's sudden barking shattered the moment. Megan turned just as an RPG was launched from a hidden position. The explosion ripped through their surroundings. Chaos erupted. The team scrambled for cover, ammunition nearly gone. Wounded soldiers littered the ground. The unit was forced into retreat, unable to continue searching for additional explosives. Megan barely reached the escape vehicle. Her body had slammed against the earth, leaving her dazed and bleeding. For a terrifying second, she feared she would be left behind. But with raw determination and Rex at her side, she rose, limped forward, and pulled herself into the convoy truck. Together, they escaped, but only just. Upon returning to base, Megan and Rex were separated, not by choice, but by necessity. Her injuries demanded immediate medical attention. When the doctors diagnosed her with a ruptured eardrum, Megan barely reacted. Her only concern was Rex. Despite her protests, she was sent back to America for a mandatory 3-week period of rehabilitation and retraining before she would be cleared for duty again. What should have been a moment of comfort, being home, felt hollow. Megan was restless, unable to settle. Her father, Bob, welcomed her warmly, hoping to bring her to her mother's house for Christmas. But her heart was elsewhere. There were no updates on Rex, no reports, no signs of progress. The silence gnawed at her. Unable to bear the uncertainty, Megan drove to Marine headquarters herself, desperate for answers. There, she ran into Andrew, preparing for another deployment, this time with his new K-9 partner, Bruno. The reunion was bittersweet. They shared memories, battle stories, and the quiet weight of survival. The war had changed them both in ways they didn't need to explain. Then came the moment she had been waiting for. News that Rex had returned to headquarters. Megan rushed to see him, finding him mid-treatment. He was bruised and healing, just like her. She stayed by his side during therapy sessions, matching his pace with her own recovery. They were healing together, step by step. When the Marines offered her a new position, training incoming dog handlers, Megan accepted without hesitation, but her mind remained split. She wanted Rex not just recovered, but whole. Not for duty, but because the thought of leaving him behind again was unbearable. Time passed. With it came Morales' return from deployment. Their reunion was unexpectedly emotional. The battlefield had forged something between them that neither had fully acknowledged until now. Megan opened up in ways she never had before. She confessed that even though she had left Iraq, she hadn't truly left the war. The explosion still echoed in her mind. The ringing in her ears was constant. The fear before every mission still lingered in her chest. PTSD had become part of her, not a shadow, but a constant companion. And then, news came that shook her to the core. Sergeant Andrew had been killed in action. In a final act of bravery, he had sacrificed himself to stop a suicide bomber. Bruno had survived. Andrew had not. The loss was a harsh reminder. War gave no guarantees. Death could come at any time, to anyone. Megan realized it could have been her, and more painfully, it still could be Rex. The weight of reality pressed heavily on Megan's shoulders, leading her to make a difficult decision. Though she had been cleared for re-enlistment, she chose to walk away, for Rex's sake. When she informed Gunny Martin of her decision, he laughed. No one really left the Marines, he told her. The battlefield changed a person forever. There was no normal life waiting beyond the wire. He gave her 2 weeks to reconsider, convinced she'd return. But Megan's mind was already made up. She didn't just want out of the military, she wanted Rex. She wanted a life of peace, one where they could both heal. She began the adoption process, fully committed to giving Rex a home outside of war. But the system didn't agree. A military veterinarian deemed Rex unadoptable. The label cited his aggressive behavior as irreversible, too dangerous for civilian life. Megan fought back. She pleaded, argued that Rex's trauma made him act defensively, not dangerously. But her appeals were rejected. The decision was final. Without her knowledge, Rex was reassigned, prepped for redeployment under a new handler named Foreman. When Megan discovered what had happened, it felt like a betrayal. Despite all she had done, all she had risked, the system had moved on without her. She confronted Martin, desperate for an alternative, but his hands were tied. Rex was government property, a Marine dog. His fate belonged to the institution. With her options exhausted, Megan spent every possible moment by Rex's side before he was taken away. She memorized his eyes, his presence, the way he leaned into her like he understood the goodbye neither of them wanted to say. Returning home brought no comfort. Her mother, Jackie, tried to ease the pain by surprising Megan with a new puppy, a gesture meant to fill the void. But to Megan, it was unthinkable. The suggestion that Rex could be replaced ignited a fury in her. The argument exploded, and Megan, overwhelmed and heartbroken, packed her things and left. She returned to her father Bob's house, choosing distance over forced comfort. But even distance couldn't quiet the echoes of war. One night, a car alarm blared outside. The sudden sound triggered something deep and violent inside her. Her muscles locked, her breath caught in her throat. In her mind, she was back in Iraq, on the battlefield. The next day, it happened again. This time, she saw a dog locked inside a parked car. Her body reacted before her mind could catch up. Haunted by the past and worn down by memory, Megan came to realize that Martin had been been right all along. The war had changed her. Civilian life wasn't something she could simply step back into. The Marines had left their mark, and no routine or comfort could erase that. But slowly, over the course of a year, Megan found her footing. She began attending PTSD support groups, grounding herself in routine, trying to rebuild a version of her life without the constant noise of conflict. Still, a quiet emptiness lingered. Rex's absence echoed through every day. She missed him more than she could admit. Her father, Bob, saw it clearly. One night he told her what she needed to hear. If she couldn't move on, she needed to move toward something, toward Rex. He encouraged her to fight, not just for the dog who had saved her life, but for herself. Get a job, reconnect with the world, find a new purpose, but don't give up. So Megan fought. She launched a campaign, not against an enemy this time, but against bureaucracy. She called Marine headquarters nearly every day, hoping to speak with Foreman, Rex's new handler. Each time, she was turned away. The rejections stacked like bricks, but Megan refused to be silenced. Then, out of nowhere, Foreman called back. His voice carried a mix of fatigue and regret. Rex was finally set to retire, but the same vet still claimed he was too aggressive for civilian adoption. Worse, Rex's health had begun to deteriorate. Megan's mission shifted from hope to urgency. She took action. This wasn't going to be another quiet defeat. Megan reached out to a senator, a veteran who might understand what Rex truly meant. She told him everything: the missions, the explosives they found, the lives they saved, the bond that couldn't be replaced. The senator listened and promised his support. But Megan didn't stop there. She went public. She created a petition, gathered signatures, and shared her story. Her fight caught fire. National media picked it up. Her story spread across news outlets and social platforms. Soon, she was invited to speak on television. Under the glare of studio lights, Megan spoke not with anger, but with conviction. Rex wasn't dangerous. He was wounded, just like her. He didn't need to be caged or discarded. He needed compassion, a second chance, and the country listened. By the time the petition closed, over 22,000 people had signed their names in support. The momentum was undeniable. Even Gunny Martin, once skeptical of her ability to adapt to civilian life, stood quietly in admiration of what she had accomplished. The system couldn't ignore her anymore. Then, the day finally arrived, Rex's retirement ceremony. At headquarters, Megan reunited with Morales, who had come to bid farewell to his own loyal partner, Chico. Time had worn its marks on both of them, but their bond remained strong. Morales mentioned one last mission before his own retirement. Before Megan could ask what he meant, he gave her a knowing look, a quiet hint that Rex would be returned to her. The words barely left his lips before Megan felt it: hope. As the ceremony drew to a close, Rex appeared, flanked by handlers and watching with the quiet focus of a Marine trained for war. But when his eyes met hers, everything changed. Without hesitation, Rex broke formation. He bolted forward, ears perked, tail high, eyes fixed on her. In that moment, discipline faded. There was no confusion, no fear, just recognition, pure, unfiltered love. Rex had found his way back home. The reunion was electric. Megan dropped to her knees, arms wide, tears in her eyes as Rex leapt into her embrace. The months of struggle, the calls, the media interviews, the petitions, they all led to this, together again. Their story, so deeply human and unwavering, captured hearts around the nation. In time, Megan and Rex were invited to Yankee Stadium, honored publicly for their service and sacrifice. Side by side, they stood not as symbols of war, but of survival, loyalty, and healing. Rex lived out his final years in peace by Megan's side, no longer sniffing for danger, no longer bound to duty, only love. In late 2012, he passed away, his journey ending where it was always meant to, at home, with the person who never gave up on him. But Megan's mission didn't end. Carrying Rex's legacy forward, she continued her work, training bomb detection dogs, sharing her expertise with global agencies like the United Nations and even the New York Yankees. With her new partner, Patriot, she ensured that the lessons forged in war became tools for protection in peace. She settled in New Jersey, working as a veterinary technician, dedicating her days to the care of working dogs, each one a reflection of Rex in their strength, loyalty, and courage. Though he was gone, Rex remained a part of her in every command, every training session, every heartbeat. Her story didn't end with a salute. It lived on quietly and powerfully in the work she chose every day. And in that, Rex never truly left.